second part of the discussion that was primarily dealt with. That what we are doing is something called as the IFFTs, where we are making sure that instead of a bank of modulators, we are actually generating the same n number of subcarriers or n number of carriers, for that matter, multi-carriers, in a much efficient manner if we do the IFFTs. Okay, and that is where the signal processing term or signal processing advantages are incorporated in OFDMA. That is nothing to do with OFDMA for that matter, but it is just that in OFDMA we require n number of subcarriers. Now it is very difficult to generate of such so many number of subcarriers closely spaced frequencies FC1 to FC2. So that is taken care of by the IFFT in the time domain, in the transmitter, or in FFT in the receivers. So that is what we have discussed. Along with that, we had also touched upon, or rather we have started off with something very important, and that is where we start off our discussion with, and that is called as the cyclic prefix. So let me just start off with today's class. Cyclic prefix. So if you remember on last day's class itself, I told you that cyclic prefix, the name itself indicates, ideally this is nothing but a guard band. It is nothing but a guard band, because as I said again, that the orthogonality being the only salient feature on which the overall ISI removal strategy is depending on. But suppose there is an option, or there is high chance that this orthogonality ceases to exist at any point of time, then there will be a drastic decrement in the efficiency as well as drastic increase in the bit error rate. So to eliminate those conditions or concerns, we are having a guard band in OFDMA system, but in a different order. So if you remember last day, I already had shown you that basically this is something like a portion of the data, okay, a portion of the sample itself, like something like this. This is just a 4 sample I'm talking about. So something like this. So this part of it will be prefixed, okay, somewhere over here as cyclically rotated sample, so that if suppose the loss or interference or overlapping happens between the two subsequent symbols, what will eventually happen, that even if the error comes in, it will be only affecting the portion which I have repeated. Okay, in doing that, what we are doing is, one is that we are not using any extra, sample, okay, like a zero padding or something like that, like the non-conventional guard band that it does. So we are utilizing the same data which is already there with the data set from, so we are reusing it, so we are kind of reusing it. And the third, or in this case the other option that we advantages is, that is what our discussion for today is, that basically this involves the this cyclic rotation. Actually this process reduces the complexity, reduces the complexity of complexity of analysis. Okay, so that is a very significant one also, because again you have to consider in a way that whatever you are doing, whatever you are performing, it is not limited to 4 samples or 3 samples. When you are talking about 256 samples, 1024 samples, 2048 samples, which is humongously high, and that too it should be processed at a very fast rate. So you need to have the analytical part of the calculation should be also not that complex, because then it becomes a very cumbersome process. Itself the process is difficult to generate, and after that if the computational part is also very difficult, so no one will be interested in doing it. So that is where the cyclic prefix in the advantage comes in. So let's start off from this point, that how we can counter, or what is the significance of this reduced complexity, because we are mostly we have understood that what exactly is cyclic prefix and how it is eliminating the ISI part, to be honest, exactly as a guard band. But the third point that I have mentioned reduces the complexity of analysis, how it is done. So let's see that by a very small little example, so that you are able to understand. So please note it down if you want. The ISI channel, if I consider that a system where the ISI is actually happening, the ISI channel, if I call that as a name, okay. can be represented by so this is with the ISI. So basically this is I'm trying to mention. So it is y of k is equal to, please follow this carefully, h of 0 x of k plus h of 1 x of k minus 1 plus vk. Okay, what is that meaning? The meaning is simple. You can see h0 and this h1, this we have already done with the channel tap. If you remember that in the lab experiments also we have discussed that these are the channel coefficients, we call it. So basically this is channel, these are the channel coefficient of the 0th and 1th part. So basically one is the this H0x0, if I consider, this is the LOS or the line of sight component. The other part you can observe this one, suppose this xk, you can call it, this is this xk that if you are looking at, okay, this xk is nothing but the transmitted symbol. Okay, so this is the transmitted symbol. Then what is this xk minus 1? This is basically the at k minus 1 the replica or a portion or the replica of the xk symbol which is coming back. So basically xk minus 1 is the interfered symbol. Okay, so this is what the interfered symbol. Because we are talking about an ISI channel, it means one has overlap or the symbol duration or the symbol whatever is being sent over the channel, it got interfered. Okay, so that is what we are actually mimicking, that this is the transmitted symbol at k instance, that is k, and this is interfered symbol at k minus 1. So it's basically a reflected symbol that is coming back at k minus 1. So that is also being added up because this is what the received signal at k instance. So when you are making the measure, so this is basically received signal at k instance, kth instance. So what again I am trying to do, we are trying to measure the received signal at kth instance, but at kth instance you have the kth symbol, but along with that you also have the interfered symbol which is the previous symbol xk minus 1. Okay, and vk is nothing but the noise. Okay, so this is the noise part. Okay, is it clear to all? Because you have to understand this very carefully, otherwise it will be difficulty. Because what we are trying to achieve is that we are trying to discuss on the cyclic prefix aspect and how cyclic prefix does that. Anyone? I think someone's mic is on. Uh, receive signal we are trying to measure. The receive signal will definitely have that is receive signal at kth instance we are trying to measure. So at kth instance we have the xk symbol, but along with that we will also have the previous symbol of k minus 1 because that is where the interference is coming from. So that is what the interfered symbol is. So this is the overall structure of it. Now let us take a to understand also to verify this. Let us take a small example that suppose there are 4 samples, okay, or 4 symbols are there like in the previous days. So maybe the symbols are x0, x1, x of 2 and x of 3. So this is the 4 symbol of a OFDM system. Okay, suppose this is the we are only taking about the 4 symbol. Now if the rule is appended as the rule we know, so this x3 has come somewhere over here, so x3 lies somewhere here. Okay, so this is the idea. Now suppose this is my cyclic prefix based symbol. This is what I will write. Okay, so now with the cyclic prefix added, now this is the configuration. Now let us see what is on store if I do the following thing. Like when I would try to find out at k equal to 0. If I substitute k equal to 0, then the first equation that will come in, that is the kth instance, that is k equal to 0 instance. So it is y equal to 0. Substitute k over here. So h of 0, x of 0 plus h of 1, x of minus 1 plus v of 0. Clear? what I'm doing is, because there are 4 symbols over here, x0, x1, x2, x3. So for each and so there are k equals to 4 in this case. Okay. Now each and every sample. So basically what I mean is that at kth instance this will be transmitted. At k plus 1th instance this will be indicated. Then k plus 2 this will be transmitted, and this will be k plus 3. Like that it will go on. So based on that we are trying to find out what should be the desired receive signal. So at k equal to 0, our received signal equation is this. Okay, this one, if I mark it as 1, so equation number 1 indicates the received signal. So y0 is equal to h0 plus h1 x minus 1 plus v0. Now interestingly, if you observe that, if although I'll keep this as it is, we don't have x of minus 1. Instead of this x of minus 1, this is nothing but an x3, because this is my x0th position. So this is my x minus 1th position. See this very carefully, and that is nothing but the cyclic prefixed symbol which is over here is x3. So I'll replace that here, and this I'll write it as x of 3. Okay, plus v of 0. So I'll just modified a little bit of the equation that we have over here, and we have, instead of x of, because here if you remember again, cyclic prefix is what it is eliminating the effect of the previous symbol on the current symbol. So this is the standard, this is the structure of the y0 or at k equal to 0. Now suppose I might look at k equals to 1. So it is y of 1 equals to h of 0 x of 1, okay, plus again k equals to 1, just substitute in the equation number 1, that is h of 1 x of 0 plus v of 1. Okay, k equals to 2, y equals to 2, h of 0 x of 2 plus h of 1 x of 1 plus v equals to 2, and k equals to 3, y equals to 3, h of 0 x of 3, h of 1 x of 2 plus v of 3. So basically what I did, for each and for 4 samples, I just substituted k equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 over here, and based on that we found out this equation. So I'll remark this as equation number 2, equation number 3, equation number 4, and equation number 5. Okay. Now it's a very interesting thing that is happening over here. Let us see, we observe it over here, or if you are not able to, I'll just try to figure out using this way. I think this is much easier for you to understand. So you can observe, suppose I'm diagrammatically I'm just showing you this. So suppose this is my x0, okay, this is x0, this is my x1, this is my x2, okay, and this is my x3. So these are the 4 samples which are present. Now ideally you can observe that at k equal to 0 something is happening. So k equal to 0, I'll write it this way, k equal to 0. Okay, what is there at k equal to 0? h0 multiplied by x0. So h0 multiplied by x0. So this is the multiplication I'm doing. So maybe I'll just draw it like this. So h0 comes with x0, and h1 has x3. So x3 is here. So I'll write h of 1 over here. The other x1 and x2 doesn't have any role to play, so I'll put a 0. Okay, this is a representation I'm doing. Simply we are just trying to make sure that how the samples are influenced by the channel response. So like that we are trying to do. Now at k equal to 1, h of 0 is now multiplied with x1. So h of 0 is multiplied by x1. h of 1 is multiplying with x0. h of 1 is multiplied with x0, and the rest are 0. Okay. At k equals to 2, h0 multiplied by x2. So h0 multiplied by x2, and h1 is multiplied by x1. See, a pattern is generated somehow. Okay. Now last one is 8k equal to 3, and in that you can see h0 is x3, so h0, and h1 is with x2, and this is 0. So if you closely observe this part, okay, if you closely observe this part, I'll mark it this way. Yeah. If you closely observe the circled or the marked one very interesting observation we are getting, and that observation is that using a cyclic prefix, there is a rotation of the channel coefficient that is happening. So I'll write it here again. So if you closely observe that using CP, which is a short form of cyclic prefix, we have a rotation. We have a rotation of the channel coefficient H. You can see here H0, H1. This H1 comes somewhere over here and H0 shifts over here. So it's a cyclic shift that is happening. Okay, and that has a very important role, because if there is this circular shift of the channel over the 4 sample of duration what we are looking at, we actually can utilize or we can actually claim that the circular convolution, okay, because this particular thing that you are looking at, if you remember yesterday's lab itself, I told you, so this is the overall equation h of x plus n. Okay, now this part of convolution that you are looking at, this is what the convolution is. It's not a direct multiplication that is happening, it's basically a convolution. Now the circular convolution of the complex data, because you can see this x which you are looking at, this is a complex data. Okay, now the complex multiplication that is associated with this circular convolution is converted if we are doing this process of cyclic rotation, because remember this cyclic rotation is only happening because we have done a cyclic shift somewhere over here, because other than that this x of -1 would have been something other data. But then if we have done this cyclic change over here, and that is why this x minus 1 was replaced by x3, and that is one of the reason why this cyclic rotation is happening or cyclic shift is happening. All right, so what we can say that if the circular shift is happening, so what we can write is, if this is the equation suppose we have, or instead of n we have written v over here, so maybe I'll write v. So what we can do is h of x, so we can, if we take the FFT of it, so FFT of y suppose, so this is nothing but FFT of h of x plus FFT of v. Okay, and this we can also this part that you are looking at, this is nothing but a convolution here. So FFT of h multiplied by FFT of x plus FFT of v. So this part you can check here, this is the most significant part. This convolution is now converted to something of a multiplication over here. So this changeover that you are looking at, the circular convolution which was existing for x complex data. Okay, now here there are x, here only 4 samples are there. Now suppose there are 2048 samples are present, so 2048 multiple complex multiplication needs to be performed. So using this cyclic shift operation or the circular shift, circular convolution, circular shift of the process in cyclic prefix, we are actually converting the circular convolution to a normal simpler multiplication. And this is from the property of FFT itself, this part of it, the associated property from FFT, we can do it. So basically what we have to do, we have to perform FFT over the H, which is also a complex symbol, that is fine. And also we have to do separately an FFT on the data symbol, and then we just need to multiply simply. So the complex multiplication, so using this cyclic prefix, the justification that is, the guard band and ISI is anyway is taken care of. But the another thing that is very important is that the circular convolution or a complex circular convolution, in terms we can say complex multiplication. Okay, complex multiplication is replaced by simpler or simple multiplication. And that is a very significant part of it. This is only possible if you are making the cyclic shift or cyclic change of the of some samples from the data set as the guard band, or if we are using that as a guard band for a particular system. So this is the major advantage of OFDMA, or rather this is one of the major I would say feature of OFDMA, where it is different from the rest of the other techniques, because this is a twofold advantage. As first of all, we have the orthogonality, which is claiming actually at least that it will have a lot of data which can be transferred over the air without much of a disturbance. So that is one aspect of it. Second part is that with the cyclic prefix into if we are adding a cyclic prefix as a guard band, then basically we are avoiding ISI if at all it happens, even after suppose the orthogonality fails at some point. So the cyclic prefix will ensure that the ISI doesn't happen. Along with that, the cyclic shift or cyclic rotation of a data bit to form the guard band will eventually help in making the complex multiplication to behave as a simple multiplication. All right. So this is the basic advantage of having a cyclic prefix on board. Any doubt with this? Any doubt with this? Why we are using a cyclic prefix? Because I know that there might be some doubt with process, but this is the most easy way of understanding it ideally. Just remember that the cyclic rotation of the channel coefficient is happening due to the cyclic prefix, because if the cyclic prefix was not there, then the initial x of -1, this part, won't be x of 3, and if that doesn't happen, the rest of the things won't happen at all. So the cyclic rotation won't happen, and this rotation of process is nothing but the circular convolution. Basically what is happening is that the circular convolution is happening, but we are mimicking the circular convolution. Okay, the process of circular convolution, which you have, I think you have done it in DSP. We are mimicking the circular convolution using the cyclic prefix in a simpler manner. So you can imagine in that way. And since circular convolution involves complex multiplication, that is avoided, and then naturally complex multiplication means the complexity of the analysis becomes difficult. So the third point that I have mentioned over here reduces the complexity of the analysis. Thus by using cyclic prefix, we are actually reducing that a larger extent. And this, in fact, this multiplication, why it is so important, because at the receiver also you have to do the same. This is where this is, as I said, with FFT, as in the from the transmitter, when it goes to receiver, the receiver also, they need to have a decoding process. Okay, so there should be a cyclic prefix removal strategy also there, and also the processing involved there as well, that from the received signal you have to extract out the output, that extract out the input as well, because the yx that you are receiving, it is with the noise part, so you have to eliminate that noise and you have to take out the data part of it. So that part of calculation also is simpler when you are talking about the cyclic prefix. All right. So this is basically what the idea behind cyclic prefix is. Let us go a little bit deep onto this with respect to what are the impact of cyclic prefix on data rate. Okay, so that is another part of it. So let's discuss that. So we call this as an impact. Okay, impact of cyclic prefix. So basically you can observe that one of the impact is that when we are using this cyclic prefix, we are actually taking some amount of data bits or some sample duration, and we are appending it in the on top of it. So natural conclusion that we can have is that definitely there will be some kind of a there will be definitely some kind of a loss in the efficiency, because you are basically using a redundant set of data. All right, so basically the data x3 that we are referring to, that is being repeated over here. So ideally there is definitely a loss in the number of symbols that we can have, or loss in the efficiency that we can have. So in that aspect, maybe I'll write one thing. So suppose I consider that L minus 1, okay, I suppose L minus 1 is the number of samples, okay, samples for CP that needs to be used, suppose in a case. So basically my total OFDMA duration, symbol duration, if we consider, that will be n plus L minus 1. So if I consider the n as the total number of subcarriers or number of symbols or samples, whatever you call it, so the total OFDMA duration, if I consider this as total OFDMA duration, total samples, if I consider, so total samples, because in the total samples including, I'll write including CP. So that is what we are looking at. So that is n plus L minus 1. So definitely the percentage of loss, so loss in efficiency, if I call it, that is nothing but L minus 1 divided by n plus L minus 1 simply. Okay, and this is what we call as loss in efficiency. But you can observe one thing, so please make a note of this. Okay, we'll see a small little numerical if possible, so that you are able to understand this. So this is the loss in efficiency, and that is why coming, because we are actually appending this L number of bits, okay, to the front of the symbol. So we are actually increasing the symbol duration to avoid the ISI, but in a way it is also reducing a little bit of efficiency. But given the fact, the basic advantage of having a cyclic prefix is to have a more ISI free region or ISI free transmission, for to be honest, as well as the reduction of the complexity of the analysis, this much of efficiency loss is accepted. It doesn't matter much. And also you can observe one thing, that if n is very large, if n is very large, if you consider, so if that is like our around like if I consider that way, so in that way n limit n tends to infinity. If I do this, suppose it's a very high value, then basically this L minus 1, n plus L minus 1, this tends to almost a 0. So basically if you have more and more number of sample, or if the n is very high, the loss in efficiency due to CP can be taken care of. So maybe I'll just write the last concluding statement regarding this. So the concluding statement over here is that if n is very high, then loss in efficiency due to CP, efficiency due to CP can be taken care of. Okay, so that is one thing. But the problem here is that this is just a discussion. I'm thought of telling you that if n is very high, we can understand that if n is very high, then the loss we can reduce. But the problem is, if the n is very high, then the symbol duration, okay, will be so long, because you can see if n is very high, then basically this n plus L minus 1, this whole thing, this will be also very large. This also will be very large. Okay, so it will be spread kind of we are extending, we are as if we are making the symbol to expand in such a manner. Okay, but the thing is, if you are doing that, the decoding process at the receiver, okay, the longer the symbol duration, this will affect to a much smaller decoding rate at the receiver. So that is also one of the trade-off that you have to consider. So basically, if we can do this, one of the advantage of n is that we are taking care of this. But if n is very high, one thing is for sure, that longer symbol duration will affect the decoding process. So that is for sure. So again, you can observe that if you are doing one thing to eliminate the loss in a way, but it will affect somewhere in the decoding process as well. So you have to have a kind of a trade-off, a compromise between what you want and what you don't want. Okay, so if you want a very high decoding speed, it's preferable that you don't go for a much high value of n. Okay, so in that way, what will happen? The efficiency might come down a bit, but the decoding process or the decoding speed, the decoding rate will be much higher. Okay, so that is how the thing is. But also there is another advantage of having a n very high, that if you are expanding it, if you are expanding the symbol duration or long duration, then basically the ISI that we are talking about, because here with this guard band included, we are actually allowing the symbol that even if the ISI happens, we don't have to worry much. So this is more of a better system in a way. So if suppose the ISI is happening, if the symbol size is very high, then it will be limited to a very small portion of the symbol. Because you can observe that if suppose something is, suppose I just physically I want you to just understand this. Suppose this is my symbol duration, and suppose this is a portion. This is just a thematic diagram. Suppose this is the portion we are looking at for the ISI. Suppose this is the initial OFDMA symbol, OFDM symbol duration. Okay. Now, as our request n is very large, so now suppose the duration becomes something like this. The same OFDMA symbol is now expanded like this. So this one is the expanded OFDM symbol, OFDMA 1 maybe. Okay, so now it has expanded. Now you can observe that if the OFDM symbol duration is large, then your ISI is happening at the same point. So basically this is a much smaller fraction compared to the overall symbol duration. So that is another advantage of having an n very high. So basically there is no such rule like which you have to follow for getting the answer. It's basically that if you keep n is high, the efficiency, the loss will definitely come down, and also you will have a relatively better influence with respect to ISI. But in that aspect, the longer duration will also affect the decoding process at the receiver. So that is also you have to take in care of. Okay, so that is where the compromise, you have to make some compromise or in a way trade-off for that matter. So in another thing, impact, since we are discussing the impact, so the portion that we are talking about is L minus 1 sample, that how this L minus 1 should be calculated, that what should be the fraction of it, or how much of the samples we need to take into consideration for a CP. So in order to do that, please make a note of it, because it's very difficult. We don't have any account of L, that how many samples we have to consider. So usually the rule is, please make a note of this. The rule is that the cyclic prefix should be, this is a very relatively good assumption, should be greater than, because you can relate to this very easily, the delay spread. Okay, so this is the common rule that we need to follow, that how much or what will be the portion of repetition for the particular system. The rule is the cyclic prefix should be at least greater than or equal to, in fact, but usually we'll keep it greater itself. The cyclic prefix should be greater than the delay spread. What is that meaning? That suppose you have gone, you have a wireless channel, and as we know from our previous discussion, we have a power delay profile. From the power delay profile, we have calculated what is the coherence bandwidth, delay spread, RMS delay spread, that is, and all those things. Now based on that, we will go back to transmitter and we will design our cyclic prefix in such a manner that even if the worst case delay spread happens, okay, delay spread is nothing but, as I said, that multiple reflecting signals coming at different point of time to the receiver. So that's what the delay spread is, and that is constituted by the channel itself. Okay, so what we are trying to do is that if we will ensure that even if the worst case delay spread happens, we will still have the requisite amount of cyclic prefix that will actually hold true for the effective duration of time. So even if the ISI happens, it will not be affecting the symbol at all, because we have already keeping the guard band, keeping in mind the maximum delay spread that will happen. Understand? So this is what the idea is, and so therefore there is another go into this, that usually the ideal scenario is ideal scenario. This is again something like we discussed, right, that some of the convention and rule to find out the coherence time and coherence bandwidth, those formulas type. So in that aspect, the ideal rule is that cyclic prefix, suppose LC, now we are mentioning it specifically, cyclic prefix ideal, cyclic prefix length, this should be multiplied by the sample time, and this should be greater than equal to the delay spread. Okay, so this is what the idea is. So at each sample, TS is a sample time. So this is my sample time, suppose. Okay, sample time, and this is my ideal cyclic prefix. This is just an ideal solution I'm talking about. So ideal cyclic prefix, LC into TS should be greater than the delay spread. And if you just rearrange it a little bit, you can observe that LC is actually should be greater than equal to TD by TS. Okay, and TD by TS, this you can actually refer to as TS. This is greater than equal to something like KB by BC. If you check this thing, why I have written down this? Because you can observe TD, this TD, this is time delay. If you remember, that was something like K by BC. Some constants were there, and that was equal to this much by BC. And if you consider this sample time, this is nothing but TS equals to 1 by B. We have discussed in the very first day when we took the example. So if I replace this, we are actually getting LC, the ideal sample, ideal cyclic prefix should be greater than equal to B by BC. So ideally the equation should be N greater than equal, not equal, greater than or far greater than, rather, we will have this far greater than LC greater than equal to B by BC. So this is ideally the relationship between the number of subcarriers N, the number of cyclic prefix LC, and how it is related to the B by BC. So this is ideally the scenario that we need to keep in mind. So keeping this keeping this all the calculation in fact, let us take a small little example to finish off on this with respect to Ymax. Okay, how in these calculations can be done with respect to Ymax. So in Ymax, what is happening? We are trying to we will try to find out all these values. Okay, what is the sample duration, what is the OFDMA duration for a particular scenario. So please make a note of this. I don't think you will get it much in many of the cases. Suppose I have a specification 256, because remember Ymax is a standard. It's just like a GSM. So it has a standard body, and the data that we are providing over here is all standard. So suppose we have n equal to 256, that is 256 subcarriers are there, and the B by N, or the frequency spacing, is 15.625 kilohertz. This already I told you that around 15 kilohertz should be the frequency spacing among the subcarriers. So this is my subcarrier spacing. So if this is given to us, so we can easily find out that what will be the I'll write it like B sub, okay, so B subcarrier, and that will be nothing but 15.625 into, okay, this into N, that is 256, and that is equal to 4 megahertz. Okay, so this is basically my B subcarrier in that way. Okay, now if you observe that not B subcarrier, this should be BS actually. This will be BS. Okay, so because we are looking at B over here, so it will be BS. We are mentioning this as 4 megahertz. So this is the total overall bandwidth what we are working on, 4 megahertz. So you can observe here, we can, if we consider that the coherence bandwidth is again 250 kilohertz. Okay, if I consider this as an example, relatively common example, so you can observe that B by N is less than actually the BC, because B by N is 15.625, and this is less than kilohertz in 250 kilohertz. So basically the specification that you are looking at over here of 15.625, this is keeping in mind that for a standard wireless channel, even if the coherence bandwidth is 250 kilohertz, it's actually behaving as a flat fading scenario. So this is first proof of it. Okay, flat fading scenario, that we are proving that basically the specification that is given to us is indicating to a flat fading scenario. That means no ISI. Okay, so that's one thing. Now let us try to find out another. This is something new to that whatever we are trying to find out, and that is called as, please make a note, OFDM symbol time without cyclic prefix. Okay, so this is a raw symbol time that we can have, and that is pretty simple. That will be nothing but n by b. Okay, this is nothing but say n by b, because 1 by b was a symbol duration for a one symbol. So if there are n symbols are there, so n by b is the sample. So 256, see here I am writing 256 because these are the without cyclic prefix. So 256 divided by 4 into 10 to the power 6, which we have found out right now. So this will be bs rather. So this is equal to 64 microseconds. So this is the overall OFDMA symbol duration without cyclic prefix. But as we have said, the cyclic prefix should be added with the OFDMA symbol. So WiMAX supports, this is one of the specification. In fact, the WiMAX supports around 12 point, please make a note of this, 12.5%, okay, of the symbol time, okay. This is one of the standard, that 12.5% of the symbol time should be equal to cyclic prefix. This is keeping in mind the rule that should be greater than the delay spread and all. So it was found out that around 12.5%, there are actually 4 set of portions which are possible, but this is only one of them. So 12.5% is the OFDM symbol time, suppose it is considered. So basically the duration of CP is nothing but 12.5% multiplied by 64 microseconds, because 64 microsecond is the basic OFDMA symbol, that is without cyclic prefix. So portion of this is going to repeat. So basically 8 microsecond is the duration. So if 8 microsecond is the duration, then basically our overall symbol time, so OFDM symbol time with CP, if I consider, so this is nothing but 64 plus 8 or 72 microseconds. So this is what will be the overall symbol duration when the cyclic prefix is added up. But naturally you can observe that this, so this is another way of doing it. So as we have already claimed over here that we can have a loss also associated with it. So let us now try to find what is the loss, percentage loss in efficiency. So that is given by L minus so CP, we can do it simply over like this. Cyclic prefix duration, okay, divided by the sample time. We can use the other formula of L minus 1 by n plus L minus 1, that also will do, but this is another shorter way. Cyclic prefix duration is 8 microseconds, and we have 1 by b as sample time. So we will have 8 into 4 into 10 to the power 6 or 32 samples. So this is basically, it means that out of the total samples, 32 samples will be appended as or prefixed before the existing symbol. So what will be the total sample? So total sample will be nothing but 256. This was with the FFT points itself. This is the total number of subcarriers plus 32. So total samples that we are trying to transmit over the air is 288. So out of 288, 32, rather out of 256, 32 will be added up with the cyclic as a cyclic prefix. So that will ensure that the total sample is now 288. Okay, 288. So basically my spectral loss, if you consider, this is nothing but 32, because this is the redundant data. Okay, so 32 divided by 288, so it is around 11.1% of loss of spectral efficiency. So this is only due to 12.5% of the cyclic prefix. So this 32 sample you can observe, no? So this is like 1 by 32 of the total number of symbol, total sample, like this we are doing. So if this is basically I'll not confuse you much here. So this sample 12.5% that you are looking at, no, this also has other options. Like for example, there can be an option where 16 sample, okay, there can be 16 sample which can get added up with the symbol. Okay, their percentage can be 1 by 4, 1 by 8, 1 by 16, and 1 by 32. like that many number of samples can be appended with the existing block of FDMA symbol. So based on different condition that is can be selected, but this particular example is based on the Ymax, and in a specific case where 12.5% is considered as one of the symbol time. So based on that only we have calculated the accordingly. So you can observe that if you are using a 12.5%, so basically 11.1% of spectral efficiency decrement or reduction in the spectral efficiency is what we are observing. Okay, so that is all about the cyclic prefix and the overall general discussion on this. As again, I'll point out that please go through this part of discussion as I'm doing it, because this part, whatever I'm trying to show you, is a very modern as well as research oriented part of it. So you might find difficulty in understanding few of the concepts, but I had given you enough way of easiness to understand it. So you can just refer to the lecture once again if you find any difficulty, and you can raise the question as and when required. So maybe we will stop the screen sharing as well as the recording.